What would you do if you saw someone being humiliated in front of a crowd, and no one stepped in to help? Would you stay silent, or would you find the courage to act? This is the story of Elliot Harper, an 11-year-old boy who stood up for a stranger on a bus, unaware that his small act of kindness would bring a Rolls-Royce to his school the next morning and change his family's life forever. What happened next will leave you speechless, inspired, and believing in the power of compassion. Stay with me, because this story is about to unfold in ways you won't see coming. The sun barely peeked over the horizon, casting a pale golden glow across the quiet suburban neighborhood. In the cramped kitchen of a modest home, Caleb Harper stared at a pair of worn shoes on the counter. The soles were so thin they barely held together, patched with glue he'd applied the night before. His reflection in the window revealed tired eyes but a determined expression, a man who refused to give up, not for himself, but for his son. At the table, 11-year-old Elliot Harper sketched in a spiral notebook, his small hands moving with purpose. He drew the outlines of a house, his dream home. It wasn't a mansion, just a snug place with a garden, a swing set, and enough room for him and his dad. He pressed hard with his pencil, as if etching hope onto the page. "Hey, kiddo," Caleb said, his voice soft but heavy with the weight of another long day ahead. "What are you working on?" Elliot looked up with a bright smile. "Our future house," he said proudly, turning the notebook to show his dad. "See? That's your workshop in the back. You can fix things there, not just shoes." Caleb chuckled, though the words stung. He ruffled Elliot's hair. "Looks like you've thought of everything. Guess I better get to that interview today if I'm gonna make this dream come true." Elliot's smile faltered for a moment. "You'll get the job, Dad. You always try your best." Caleb didn't respond immediately. He turned to the stove, where a single egg sizzled in a worn frying pan. Splitting it between two plates, he sat across from Elliot, pushing one plate toward him. "Eat up." "Big day for both of us," he said, avoiding his son's gaze. Breakfast was quiet, save for the clink of forks against plates. Caleb's mind drifted to the past, 6 years ago, when he'd lost his wife, Anna. They'd been a young, hopeful couple, full of plans. But Anna's sudden illness had shattered everything. She'd been the glue holding their dreams together, and without her, Caleb struggled to keep from falling apart. He'd quit his engineering program to care for Elliot, taking whatever jobs he could find, cobbling shoes, fixing appliances, anything to stretch every dollar. The shoes on the counter, glued together for today's interview, were a testament to his resourcefulness and his desperation. "You okay, Dad?" Elliot's voice pulled him back. Caleb forced a smile. "Yeah, just thinking. Don't worry about me." Elliot nodded, though his wide eyes betrayed concern. He reached across the table, placing a small hand over Caleb's. "You've got this, Dad." After breakfast, Caleb grabbed his frayed briefcase and resume, while Elliot shouldered his patched-up backpack. They stepped into the crisp autumn air, their breaths forming small clouds. At the bus stop, Caleb crouched to Elliot's level. "Remember," he said, his voice firm but gentle, "kindness is the one thing you can always afford to give, even when you have nothing else." Elliot tilted his head. "Like Mom used to say?" "Exactly," Caleb replied, swallowing the lump in his throat. The bus screeched to a halt. Caleb helped Elliot climb the steps, watching as his son greeted the driver with a shy smile. As the bus pulled away, Caleb stood there, the sight of Elliot disappearing leaving an ache in his chest. The day was just beginning, and neither could predict how much it would change their lives. Elliot adjusted his backpack as he sat on a corner seat of the rattling bus. Outside, the world blurred into streaks of golden sunlight and grayish buildings. His dad's words echoed, "Kindness is the one thing you can always afford to give." Elliot smiled faintly. Caleb always found wisdom in their struggles, and Elliot admired him for it. He tightened his grip on his notebook, where his dream house sketch rested, a private sanctuary of hope. The bus slowed at the next stop, and a small group of commuters boarded, including a woman who caught Elliot's eye. She was slightly hunched, her frayed coat too big, clutching a canvas bag that had seen better days. Her hair was tied in a loose ponytail, strands escaping around a face marked by anxious urgency. Her eyes darted nervously as she approached the driver, Gordon Finch, a burly man with a gruff demeanor. "Where's your fare?" Gordon barked, his voice cutting through the engine's hum. The woman flinched, fumbling with her bag. I don't have it right now," she stammered, "but I need to get to my destination." "It's important. I'll pay later." Her words only agitated Gordon further. He leaned back, folding his arms. "You think I'm running a charity? No fare, no ride." Elliot shifted uncomfortably, his small frame tensing. The other passengers glanced at each other but said nothing. Some looked out the window, others wore silent judgment. No one moved to help. "I swear I'll pay," the woman pleaded, tears welling. "Please, I just need to get there." Gordon stood, his tone menacing. "Rules are rules. Get off before I make you." Elliot's heart pounded. His father's words surfaced again. Before he could second-guess himself, he stood, hands trembling as he pulled a crumpled dollar bill and coins, his lunch money, from his pocket. He stepped into the aisle, his voice quivering but firm. "Here," he said, holding out the money. "This should cover her fare." The bus fell silent. All eyes turned to the small boy, his defiance stunning everyone, including Gordon. The driver stared, dumbfounded, before snatching the money. "Fine," he muttered, sitting down. "She's your problem now." The woman, Margot Langley, hurried to a seat beside Elliot, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I don't know how to repay you." Elliot shrugged, cheeks reddening. "It's okay. Everyone needs help sometimes." Margot wiped her face with a handkerchief, regaining composure. "You're a brave young man, braver than most adults I've met." Elliot hesitated, then asked, "Why didn't anyone else help?" "There were so many people." Margot sighed, glancing at the passengers who avoided her gaze. "Fear," she said quietly. "Sometimes people are too afraid to do the right thing." As the bus rolled forward, Margot listened as Elliot shared his dreams of a house for him and his dad. Her anxiety softened, her eyes warming. "You'll build that house one day," she said with conviction. "It'll be beautiful because you've got a good heart." Elliot smiled. "Thanks. I hope so." As the bus neared his school, Margot scribbled in a notebook, tore out a page, and handed it to Elliot. "If you ever need anything, find me," she said. Elliot tucked the note into his pocket. "I hope everything works out for you," he replied. Margot smiled faintly. "It already has, thanks to you." Elliot stepped off the bus, his heart pounding. He glanced back as the bus disappeared, the note in his pocket feeling like a small but significant weight. He didn't know it yet, but this act of kindness would ripple far beyond that morning. Elliot stepped through the towering gates of Crescent Valley Academy, the bus ride fading into the bustle of students and soccer balls. He clutched his sketchbook, Margot's note a quiet presence in his pocket. As a scholarship student, Elliot often felt like an outsider, his patched clothes drawing whispers. Today, though, his thoughts were on Margot's tearful gratitude and the courage he'd found. In the hallway, a familiar voice sneered, "Well, if it isn't Harper the hand-me-down." Dylan Crow, in his crisp designer gear, leaned against a locker, his cronies snickering. "Where's your fancy lunch today?" "Oh, wait, you gave it away." Elliot tensed but kept his head down. "I don't need to save the world," he finally said, voice calm but firm. "Just doing one good thing is enough." Dylan's smirk faltered, but he waved it off. "Whatever, loser." In art class, Elliot found solace. Miss Evelyn Marsh, the teacher, greeted him warmly. "How's my future architect?" she asked. Elliot smiled, diving into the day's assignment, designing a meaningful structure. He sketched his dream house, losing himself in the lines. Later, in English, Miss Harper Gray assigned a journal project about a life-changing moment. Elliot titled his entry, "The Courage to Do What's Right," thinking of the bus. At lunch, with no food, Elliot sat under a tree, sketching to ignore his hunger. A soft voice interrupted. "Hey, Elliot." Hannah Blake, a kind classmate, offered him a sandwich. "My mom packs too much." Grateful, Elliot accepted. Hannah mentioned Dylan mocking his bus story in homeroom, but added, not everyone thought it was funny. Her words sparked hope, maybe kindness did ripple. The next morning, Elliot walked to school, the note still unopened in his pocket. The schoolyard buzzed as usual, but a sleek black Rolls-Royce glided through the gates, silencing the crowd. Its polished surface gleamed, and when Margot Langley stepped out, Elliot froze. Gone was the disheveled woman from the bus. In a tailored suit, she exuded quiet authority. Murmurs spread, "Who's that? A VIP?" Margot approached the principal's office, her eyes meeting Elliot's with a knowing smile before she disappeared inside. The school buzzed with speculation. Even Dylan seemed intrigued, muttering about donations. Elliot's mind raced. Why was Margot here? Was it because of him? He slipped away to class, the note in his pocket feeling heavier than ever. During first period, a knock interrupted art class. The principal, Mr. Kessler, entered with Margot. "Elliot Harper, please come with us," he said. Whispers erupted as Elliot followed, heart pounding. In the principal's office, Margot sat composed, her canvas bag replaced by a sleek briefcase. Mr. Kessler smiled. "Elliot, Mrs. Langley has something to discuss." Margot's voice was steady but warm. "Elliot, yesterday you showed me kindness when no one else did. You reminded me what courage looks like." She paused, her eyes softening. "I'm the CEO of Langley Enterprises. My company supports young talent, and I want to offer you a full scholarship to Crescent Valley's advanced program, covering tuition, supplies, and mentorship for your architectural dreams." Elliot's jaw dropped. "But, why me?" Margot smiled. "Because you acted when others didn't. And I believe in your potential." She handed him a card with her contact information. "This is just the start. I'd also like to meet your father." That afternoon, Caleb arrived at school, bewildered by the summons. In the office, Margot explained everything: Elliot's bravery, the scholarship, and her offer to hire Caleb as an engineer at her company. "Your son's heart reflects the values we need," she said. Caleb, stunned, glanced at Elliot, who beamed. "You got the job, Dad," Elliot whispered. Weeks later, life transformed. Caleb started at Langley Enterprises, his engineering skills finally valued. Elliot thrived in the advanced program, his sketches gaining praise. The dream house wasn't built yet, but it felt closer. One evening, Elliot opened Margot's note from the bus. "Thank you for reminding me there's still good in the world. ML." He smiled, tucking it into his sketchbook, a reminder that kindness, however small, could change everything. Elliot Harper was just an 11-year-old boy with a patched-up backpack and a big heart, but his single act of kindness on a bus didn't just save a stranger, it transformed his family's future and inspired everyone around him. This story isn't just about Elliot, it's about you. What small act of courage could you take today that might change someone's life or even your own? Think about it, and let's spread kindness together. Share this story, and let's see how far its ripples go.